4, 3.
We'll do it live!
Now we're live! Erin Kennedy. The general craziness of it, the impact on your life.
We have gone through so many stories and we said, you know what? This should not be kept to the two of us. Hi, Megan.
Hi.
Good morning. How are you?
You know, I'm good. And I was thinking about something this morning that I feel like TV news is a little bit like your freshman year of college. You know, when like nobody really knows everybody, you're away from your family, you're brand new, you make friends like immediately and you stay friends with those people forever just because you went through like, you know, that experience together. For some reason, regardless of how many years you spend in TV news, when you work with someone, especially on a morning shift, it's like freshman year of college all over again.
Bonded for life. Bonded for life.
I feel like it
Which is today's guest, but I want to do a real quick explainer. Megan's audio is terrible because she couldn't figure out the audio when her mic was plugged in. So 1,000 apologies to everybody whose ears are bleeding this morning.
Is it bad now?
Megan, and tell her how to make it work. It's
know how
very
to do it.
hollow. Yeah.
Hello. What's wrong? Did I hit a button? I might have hit a button on this. I don't know how to untouch.
You might have hit a button. We'll have to troubleshoot later because we got to get on with it because we are excited. You want to take the introduction, Meg?
Yes. Okay. So freshman year of college, friend of ours, just kidding, teammate friend of ours, Yasmeen Hassan, who was traffic when I was weather, and we just love her to bits.
Don't we have to say how much we need our production team now that we are all on our own?
Yes.
Where are our amazing producers and staff behind the scenes who make us look and sound good, folks?
It turns out we are just a pretty face with nothing behind it. We just kind of show up and talk.
You're just talking about me right now because I'm the one with the technical problems. The rest of you guys seem to be fine.
That's kind of true too, but that's okay. We love you anyway. Hey, Yasmeen, it's so good to see you and to catch up because we've been trying to do this for a little bit. So thank you so much for being patient with us. Also, you've been at like the top of everybody's list where we want to hear like what you're doing now, what you're up to, because you have also left the TV news world.
We all left right around the same time-ish. And I have to say, speaking of that freshman year, all of my girlfriends from my very first market have all left news as well within the last couple of years. So it's definitely, it's not just us.
No, but what was the final straw for you? Because it was your choice. We should say, like, Megan and I were kicked off the merry-go-round. Your ticket was still valid. You just decided to jump off.
Okay, but let's be honest. As soon as you get into news, they tell you at some point you're going to be let go. You you have to make your peace with that. It is just a matter of time.
Were you ever let go?
We're women, and we're no longer in our 20s. Spoiler alert! Breaking news. So let's be like, we all had an expiration date, right? Like it was going to happen at some point, maybe multiple times, and then COVID hit, and I'm eating 3, 5, 6, all my meals alone, all day, every day, and I was like, what are we doing? What are we doing? We made it to Chicago, which is, you know, pretty good. Pretty good when we started off. We were just talking making $17,000 a year in market 142.
What was your first market?
Mine was Richland, Washington, Eastern Washington, wine country. It's lovely there. No one's ever heard of it. So I'm like, sort of near Spokane, but not.
Real far enough away to be its own market.
Yeah. And where are you from again, Yasmeen?
Syracuse, New York, upstate New York. Again, I want to say New York because it sounds cooler, but then you meet someone who's actually like from Manhattan. I'm like, oh no, we've got like cows and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, it's lonely, right?
So that was it. It was just that COVID kind of made you reassess your priorities.
Yeah, you know, like it's going to sound like this is going to sound like a brag. So let's just get that out of the way. We made it. We made it to the top of like the markets. And I was like, it's not enough. It is not enough. And, you know, how many times did we get up and pack and leave our friends and our families and significant others to be like, well, I got to follow this career. And I'm like, oh, well, I did it. And that's great. And we, had plenty of wonderful experiences. But, eating spaghetti in bed is not great when you're doing it like 4 out of 7 days a week.
All the time. And
Actually, that sounds quite nice.
Yeah. Well, what are you doing now, Yasmeen?
So now, actually, with one of my other former newsies, one of my old co-anchors from Las Vegas, we started a communication firm, HQ, H Hassan, Q Quinones, HQ Communications, and we are doing media training and public speaking training and all of the tips that we learned as anchors and now that I can't speak, every time I try and pitch us, I'm like, I get all caught up. But if you put a camera on and we're just talking to Megan and Erin, I'm like, oh yeah, we got this. But we teach all those, don't do this weird thing with your hands. And the reporter is asking you this question. Yeah. Everybody does it.
Don't do that and don't put it down low because it's like you're highlighting a certain part of your anatomy. I was like, oh, never did that again.
Yeah, exactly. But you will watch national television and people will do it. And I'm like, my eye is naturally going there. And I don't think I don't want that. I'm assuming those reporters don't want that. So, we're teaching everybody all those behind the scenes skills and writing and, all of that.
I really enjoyed your chats on like LinkedIn where you do a deep dive on gaffes that you've seen these big corporations make, like Balenciaga, right? But it's, it's interesting because Megan and I have chatted about this before, but Yasmeen, we are so tuned into messaging and how that message is going to be received by a general audience. And it's amazing to look at it from our perspective and be like, how can this company with so many people behind them be so tone deaf?
How did you not see this coming? Right.
Right. It's horrible.
And I've sat in so many meetings where people are going back and forth trying to should we use the word clear or should we use the word transparent? I'm like, if you were reporters don't care, folks. Reporters do not care. Your press release is too long. No one is reading past it. Let's get down to the actual message that you want to be actually taken by people. And everyone wants to, well, I want to appear intelligent and well-spoken. I'm like, it doesn't matter if no one can understand you. It doesn't matter. Or no one connects, or you seem kind of pompous and all those things. So it definitely takes a little bit of an ego check, right? Yeah. Is like, oh, okay. I'm like, you're talking out to people.
Like, Yasmeen, are you surprised? Because when I first started working in like real world stuff, I'm like, wow, there's a lot people don't know that we just know and take for granted that like everyone understands, and they don't like how to communicate any of that.
It's so fun. The other day I was sitting in a meeting and it was 4:45 or 4:50 p.m. And everyone was like, oh, we have to get this out by the 5 p.m. news. I'm like, folks, the 5 p.m. news, unless like the arch in St. Louis has fallen, that has gone to bed. There is no scenario. This news release is getting in the 5 p.m. news. And it's so funny. You don't even know to teach people that, right? Because we've learned it and know it for so long. You're like, oh, are you under the impression something that goes out 5 minutes to 5 is going to make like maybe 10 p.m.? But
besides the fact that like the last time you want to send an email is during a newscast or during an A block, because that's the first time it's going to be deleted. Absolutely. If I see something irrelevant coming in, then I want to circle back though, Yasmeen, to your time in Chicago. You had a different kind of hiring in Chicago, right? Because you went to the station and kind of said, hire me, right? Yes. As opposed to, did you have an agent? Were they pitching you? How did it all come about?
I did have an agent, but my little brother lived in Chicago. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to try and have a personal and professional life. So maybe I can go to Chicago. And I was already working at a CBS station in Sacramento. So I bugged my current news director, who was so kind. I'm like, hey, this is great, but I want to go over there. And I basically was like, can you just tell him to meet me? And I have to tell you, Jeff, our boss, did not want to meet me. He's like, I don't know if she's ready. I don't know. And I'm like, just 5 minutes. Let me in the door.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm going to do, but I did get a meeting in November and I started in August. So clearly he still was not totally convinced,
100% sure.
but I'll take it.
Yeah,
I'll take it.
that timeline actually sounds downright normal to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's also rare that you kind of decided where you wanted to go and got there.
Yeah, I would say, but isn't applying for a job, and this is not exclusive to news, just the most humbling experience ever? You're like, wait, I know what I'm doing. And nobody wants to talk to me, or it takes 9 months for you to call me back.
Now, when you met with the news director, did you do any kind of an audition, or was it just kind of that's also a little bit different than usual. And were you doing traffic in Sacramento?
I was the weekend anchor and night side reporter.
Yeah.
So hired for not the job. I came in at night. I didn't lay eyes on any of you. I mean, outside of like internet stalking until my first day, which is very unusual, not to have a bunch of auditions and that awkward.
Yes, that audition.
Nice to you because clearly you're replacing somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Well, and you were replacing somebody who was also very well liked, Derek, who we also love. And this is no commentary on Derek. This is a commentary on the industry, which is eating our young. And that's just the nature of the business. But that must have been difficult.
I remember, this is probably a little too, that ship has sailed. This is the problem when you like talk to people who are your friends, is you forget you're actually you're like, oh, wait, I should pretend to be. So my first day, you guys, the boss's office is glass. So you know who is having a meeting.
We call it the fishbowl.
I watched the conversation happen with the person. I assume because I saw him that morning when I walked in for my first day, and I did not see him on day 2.
Yeah.
And I saw him in that office. I'm like, oh my God, this is happening right now in front of. And I'm not the only one who saw it. All of us are watching anytime anyone walks into that office.
Yeah.
It's like a fishbowl.
Yes. It's rough. And I've always said, if you don't love news, it is the worst job. And it was a great job until it wasn't enough, right?
Mm.
Why do you think at some point it wasn't enough? Like, what changed your perspective from it was good to this isn't good?
I think it was probably a lot of things. Like, one, I know we've all talked about this to some degree. We've done all the stories, right? Like, you're like, oh, is there breaking news or a big storm or a fire? You're like, oh, I want to go. And then after a while, you're like, I know. I mean, I can recite any report at any time.
Mm-hmm.
We just got to the scene. Look at this crime scene tape. Police officers are here. Look, you can
look at this house fire. Firefighters are here.
Yeah.
Lots of questions, more questions and answers. We're going to stay on top of it for you. Back to you, Erin.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. No, we've said before, we could actually talk for probably 5 minutes without saying anything really of substance.
Yes. Easily.
Oh, I do that all day, every day. There's no weather, but let me tell you what I do know.
Let's talk. Which is also something else that I teach in media training a little bit. Like, sometimes the reporters will ask, I'm like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the reporters ask. Say whatever you want to say, because that's what they're doing. I'm like, I don't actually have the information. Let's talk about how windy it is. Do you see this flag? Can you see it waving in the air? Can you believe it? I've said that line so many times on television. Right. It is embarrassing.
I call it strip it and flip it. Strip the question of all relevancy and flip it to where you want to go.
Whatever you want to say. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Reporters may get frustrated with you eventually, but it doesn't matter because you're still giving them the only sound that they can use.
They just need sound and they're going to take it.
So now the first time that you were on air, tell me if I'm remembering this correctly. I think there was a CTA train derailment in the afternoon and they wanted you on the green screen and like you had no makeup on or anything like that. And I was like, wow, she is amazing. Cause I would have said hard pass unless you could let me put on some mascara and some lipstick.
I totally forgot that. I was wearing pants that were wrinkled because they were like trousers that are going to get wrinkled after 6 hours. No makeup. If I don't have to have makeup on, I don't have makeup on. I think maybe my hair was done, and it was the CTA, and I don't know. Speaking of like when you just like talk for hours, I don't know Chicago at this point enough to be like, oh yeah, this is right where the bean is and all that big trap. I had no reference points. I'm like, this is a problem. We should avoid the area. Please keep this a wide shot. I look crazy. Okay, bye.
I remember though, first of all, I remember you being like looking at me and going, I don't even have any makeup on. I don't know what to say. And I was like, you'll be fine. And then I remember though being impressed because if there's one thing about you, Yasmeen, and I remember like distinctly thinking, damn, this girl is good. Because like you really sold it. Like nobody else knew that you didn't know except me because you told
That's like I feel like that's like a new, like all of us have that. Like we have confidence that's really undeserved a lot of the times. Like, let me just present this as if I don't know anything. I mean, listen, reporters do know some, but like when they don't know, they just have to be like, I just got here, I'm working it, and you're going to be the first to know. And you just, you kind of sell it.
Say it with
until
confidence.
You have the information.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and I got to say though, that is a skill that the good ones have.
Yeah, not everybody.
Because I mean, it is a skill to be able to fake it with confidence, right?
That's fair. That's
and
fair.
That is something I think that you learn kind of coming up in the world. All right, I want to be respectful of your time, Yasmeen, because I know you got to scoot real fast. So we're just gonna start right in with our questions here. Craziest story.
Ooh, I had to rappel down Caesar's path. We had some news. I won't bore you with all the. It's good drama, but we had a new news director, and when she didn't love me. She didn't love me.
So she said she was out of building.
Well, she pulled me from the desk and wanted me to report, and I was kind of a little. I don't want to do this. So I was not prepared in the morning meeting. I didn't pitch any I didn't have any stories to pitch. So before the morning, so normally when you show up, you have to say, here are all the phone calls I made. And I went down to City Hall. I didn't do any of that stuff. So I get there and they're like, oh, we need someone to do an event. And I just like, my hand shot up so fast. I'm like, oh, I'll do it. And then they're like, oh, we need you to rappel down Caesar's Palace live on television. I'm like, oh, cool. I don't like heights. This is a mistake, but I didn't have anything else to pitch. So that, and you know, when you do an event for TV, there's all the behind the scenes. I'm getting ready. They're putting on the helmet and I'm like, oh, I can't say no. Like we're doing it. Yeah.
You're in deep.
That has sailed.
Yeah.
And I remember the instructor being like, okay, so you're just going to step outside this window. I'm like, I don't think that I am. But then, you're on, right? You're on. So you're like, okay, I guess this is what I'm doing. And I don't know if you guys have ever it lives out there and you have to pull yourself with the rope. And I have the upper body strength of a kitten. So it takes me the entire show to get down. And the producers are like, can you please speed this up? I'm like, are you joking? Are you joking? I am hanging by a thread literally for your entertainment.
So did you have your earpiece in? They could talk to you while you're doing that? Oh my gosh, how stressful.
So they're like, listen, you've got 3 minutes to the bottom of the show. We need this to wrap up. We want a post interview. So that was my,
Oh my gosh. Yeah. But again, it comes back to that conditioning that you've had in the industry, Yasmeen, of not being able to say no, right?
This is also going to sound like it's a little abusive, right?
Yes.
It's a little, you have to say yes. And the smallest crumb of like a compliment, I'll be like, everything has been terrible for weeks. But remember 4 months ago when like the boss was like, hey, I liked your story, and you hold on to that and it means so much. Mm-hmm. That's not healthy.
No, right? It was the definition of abuse, I think.
Right. You want to be easygoing, you want to say yes, and for that same you're going to get let go at a certain point. So you're like, well, let's cause the least amount of friction for the longest amount of time to like hang out. And then I don't know. It's not great. It's not great.
Craziest viewer letter or comment?
Ooh. Oh, that's so hard. There are so many great ones. I remember waking up one morning and getting a tweet that someone said my head was too big for my body, which really like it stuck out. I'm like, that's unique.
That hurts.
I don't know what do you want me to do? What do you want me to do with that? And you're like
your head.
a 27-year-old kid already. Let's everyone has body issues, everyone has insecurities. I'm like, oh, that's nice.
That was in your head when you're on the air, like, my head looked too big. Where do I put my head?
What do I do? Do I look like a bobblehead in real life?
So did you respond to the mean stuff?
I did. And I know you're not supposed to, but I couldn't let it go. But I would respond in a way where I'd be like, what a super great thing to read at 6 o'clock in the morning. I hope someone says something equally as lovely to you when you are getting ready to start your day. Thanks. Godspeed.
Wouldn't they respond back though with something terrible again, or was that enough to school them?
Usually they either didn't respond or they would be like, oh, I didn't know you were a real human or you would do this or you were a real person. I'm like, yeah, man, what? Do you not think that we have feelings and hopes and dreams and parent? Like, I have a mom. You can't talk to me like that. Someone loves me.
Right.
Don't say that to me.
Most dangerous assignment outside of your rappelling down Caesar's Palace story?
Wildfires in California. Ooh. All the wildfires, because again, you want to do a good job, and by that I mean get too close. The shooting in Las Vegas, we were there when we didn't have answers. We didn't know what was going on, and I don't know if you guys remember, but overnight, so the shooting happened at 10-11 p.m. on a Sunday. So overnight, those first few hours, there were reports of multiple shooters. There were reports it was a terrorist attack, and we didn't know what was going on, but we were still there. My girlfriend was the first reporter on the scene. She heard reports on the scanner, and she was like there were still shots being fired, and she was Yeah. And but she again, when you're hearing something on the police scanner, you don't know. You don't know until you go. So you're like, oh, I'm hearing some commotion. A lot of the times, it's nothing. So she's like, and she was an MMJ. So she was all by herself, grabbed her camera, grabbed her sticks, her tripod, and went down there. And yeah.
Is she still in the business?
She is not.
Was that part of it, you think?
Yeah, actually, she and I talk about this a lot. The other day, I went to an Eagles concert, which was lovely and wonderful, and they put on a great show. This is nothing anti-Eagles, but when I was sitting in my seats before the concert, I started having like a little panic attack and looking around for where are the exits.
Yeah,
and I've never ever thought anything like that before. And you go to work and you do the job and you don't really have time. People always ask what was it like to cover A, B, or C, right? And you're like, well, you covered it. You were doing your job, but it wasn't. That concert was a couple of months ago. That shooting was years and years ago, and I didn't know how much. Of course, of course it affected you, but you don't know what ways it affects you until you're like I remember like my chest tightening up, and I'm like, what? There are too many people in this room. Mm-hmm. What? How would we get out?
Did management offer any sort of counseling to the staff?
Yes, they did, and management was honestly very, very kind. We had sweet dogs come by. We had a therapist like walk by to like your desk, which was awkward. Just like, I don't know. Therapy, your first couple sessions, if you've never been, it's like an awkward first date. You're like, let me tell you about all my trauma, stranger I met.
Is that your first date?
Now let me tell
I
you.
can tell you some issues there if that's how you're starting your first dates too, Yasmeen.
Right.
Right. And now you're doing it in the newsroom, like right next to your coworkers. I'm like, I'm good, man, but thanks. Also, I'm on deadline, so I don't have time to have thoughts or feelings.
Time to be mentally healthy.
Yeah.
What? You don't have time.
No.
All right. Tell me you worked in TV news without telling me you worked in TV news.
I don't know. Is this like awkward Emmy not enough that I like put in the background of my business meetings that I had to dig out of my closet? Because I'm like,
I got one over there.
thank you, Erin. It's
Like,
like,
well, I didn't even buy mine. I should.
Yeah, no, you're definitely right.
like
And
it
I think
now.
that was a COVID thing, right? Where everybody, okay, all the anchors are home right now. Let's trot out all your Emmys and set them on a desk behind you.
How can you impress people without impressing people? But
Right.
it's kind of obnoxious. It's a little obnoxious.
And we should do a separate episode about how the Emmys really aren't as cool as everybody outside of TV news thinks they are.
Yeah, right.
No.
It's not like
No.
the thing you're watching on TV.
Yeah.
And how much did we pay for these things? Some stations
$300.
pay. I paid for this. I mean,
Yeah.
you won, but you are still paying to be considered, and then paying for the statue, and paying for the dinner that you attend.
Well, I didn't attend this, but yeah. All right. Longest time on air.
The shooting.
Yeah. And back to that though, Yasmeen, did you get like a phone call in the middle of the night, or were you?
I have the text message on my phone to this day.
Still.
Yeah.
We had a system at my old station that, in the case of, it was Las Vegas, right? So we had some weird things pop up where it was all hands on deck a couple of times. So we had a system where it was a mass text message went out to every person who worked in the newsroom, come to the station immediately. So I got that text message. You know, we're overnight, so everyone is on do not disturb except for your mom, your dad, and your news director.
Yeah.
Again, looking back, wildly unhealthy, but it is what it is. So I woke up to that text message, and, you know, text messages from everyone, you know, saying, "Hey, are you safe? Is everything okay?" So that, again, Sunday night at 10 p.m., we were on the station was on the air for 4 days straight.
Yeah.
I was on the air for 22 hours that first day. In the field, then on the breaking news desk, and I was sick. I was very, very, like, I had, like, if you want, in my reel, my voice is so raspy and deeper, and I was coughing, and in the breaking news desk is in the middle of the newsroom, and I remember my boss walking by, and I'm coughing between takes. He's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Am I gonna call in sick? What do you mean?"
Right.
I'm not okay, but
we're gonna go home and take a nap.
Yeah, right. Yeah, my throat is a little scratchy, so I'm just gonna wrap this up.
Peace out, everybody.
Yeah, 22 hours.
All right. Some TV talent that you learned in the industry that everybody should know and learn from and use in their own life.
This is so cliche. Oh, it's so cliche. People will remember how you made them feel over any facts you give them. Any facts. They will remember if you cared. They will remember if you were laughing. They will remember. One of my friends was covering a hurricane, and I was watching the coverage, and I remember her putting her hand on the back of this older gentleman who was like looking at his house, and she just put his hand on his shoulder, and it was you take away that barrier of I'm behind the camera, behind the scenes, I'm not part of the story. Yeah, everyone wants everything to be perfect and polished, and realistically, I don't think people want that anymore. People want to know that you're a person, and they want to, you know, have a coffee with you or have a beer with you, or want to know that, hey, they've got kids or parents or siblings, and their anchors are just like me, or CEOs, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's all of our questions. Yasmeen, I did ask you to bring an old headshot. Did you remember?
I have an old one.
I would have preferred an old one. Show me what you got.
I bet I have an old one. Gosh. I don't have one off the top of my head. I'll send one though. I'll send like an embarrassing,
because I want this to be a new thing where we ask our guests to bring in an old headshot.
I love it.
We need to share ours.
Yeah, I have a couple of terrible ones.
I feel like all of the airbrushing that they do, I'm like, fine, you're airbrushing me, but worse to a point where I'm like, my mom wouldn't recognize me in this photo.
Right. No, it was after, and I'll have to pull this one up later, after one particular terrible airbrush. And I know I've talked about this with you, Megan, and you've seen it before, where they pulled my teeth up to get rid of like my gums, and it looks like I'm snarling. And so from then on out, I was like, I get final approval on all editing that you make with photos and airbrushing.
Oh, I was going to talk to you. I didn't, again, because you don't want to make waves. I'm like, I hate this. And now it's on a billboard. Delightful.
Yeah, you don't get a choice of which one you like best.
No, I did there were a couple times I did push back, and sometimes they said, I don't care, but I would be like, no, this is not flattering, or this looks too prommy. You remember?
I never even tried to push
Or
back.
they're like, move this and move your head over here. You're like, in what scenario is that how you look in nature?
How is that natural at all? None of the above.
Yeah.
I think that we had to rush this too much, and I want you to come back on later, Yasmeen.
Yes, please. I want to just keep talking. I mean, we can do it on the clearly.
But we already ran over your time, and I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I have a meeting. This was so fun.
It was fun,
guys.
I'm gonna fix my mic next time.
It's good to see you. And it's good to see you doing well and healthier and having more of a balance in your life.
Oh my gosh, you guys, I love you so much.
Miss
Love you too, Yasmeen. It's good to see you. All right, we'll have her on again. Bye, everybody.
Bye.